861 all talk about, mechanisms for people, for public service officials to declare their assets. Tied to this issue is the fact that where did she get the money from? So then the assumption is that she got the money because she was in public office. So then we have to talk about asset declaration at the beginning of a person's term. Do you think that our asset declaration mechanism is working as it should?
Well, when it comes to asset declaration law in Ghana, we make a mockery of enforcement of laws because the law itself says, I think, when they come into office, by the first 6 months, the person should have declared the asset. But then when it's declared, it's put in a sealed envelope.
Yeah.
And until something like this happens, it will never be opened. So what kind of law is that? How do you enforce anti-corruption laws when the means to check it is taken out from the Auditor General's role? Because our group, we confronted the Auditor General, I think somewhere last year. We had a lot of engagements with him. And their understanding of the law is that they don't have to enforce anything. They have to wait for the people to file.
I don't think it's just merely their understanding of the law. I think what it is the provision of the law. And funny, because last Friday I was in a meeting where we were randomly, because we hadn't heard of this particular incident, talking about asset declaration forms and the fact that they are kept in sealed envelopes until something like this happened. Now, tied to that is, and the question I was asking one of my colleagues is that the fact that you even declare every 4 years, should the time for declaration, this is a legal provision, so it probably will need to be looked at, should the time for, let's say, update of the declaration form not be made shorter and more mandatory, so that people probably will have to, update whatever they have every 6 months, every 1 year, I don't know, instead of the 4 years?
Well, to start with, just like I said, as auditors, because that's why they've given it to the Auditor General's office, and certain coalitions read on the Constitution, the provision. We felt as auditors, just as they go out to audit stuff, that they have to audit it. But then the provision in there, as per their read of the law. So now we're looking at the option of going to the Supreme Court to see if our understanding is what is. And I don't know if you are aware that we had a similar encounter with them on the surcharging law provision.
I remember, yeah.
When audits are completed.
Yeah.
The same argument happened. We went to the Supreme Court, and the read was that they have to surcharge. And in the same way, we feel that you cannot take an asset declaration form, you don't know what's in it, you don't even check the list of officers that need to file the declaration form, and match it against what you've received. Because when we even raise that they even don't file it.
I think there was good reason for that, and it was the fact that they are not an implementing body, and so it's for safekeeping when there was the need for any further action in the matter to the extent of implementation, and then the necessary actions would be taken. Would that not be a plausible enough reason?
That's a plausible reason for them. But then what effect does this law have if that's the way we are administering it? Because they referred us to Shraj. When does Shraj come in? It's only when somebody reports it. And how many Ghanaians go to report the political leaders? Because look at the structure we have in this country. Just check it out from 79 to date. We've never had accountable political leaders in the real sense of accountability. And that's where,
because of my 9 to 5, I will say that's a very, very subjective, value-laden statement, which has all layers of interpretation, which can be counted. And so, but I do get where you're getting.
For instance, look at just a typical example. Take the executive and take the legislative house. When a member of the legislature does something, presently they all march to the court to support, they solidarize. Have you seen armed robbers follow their colleagues to court before? The
That's
executive,
again, that's a
the,
not,
the
that's a not,
executive
that's
does
not a
the same
very,
thing. You see, why I'm saying this is that our leaders do not lead by good examples, because true, it's a case in court. But what is the need of telling the society that we are solidarizing? It's a case in court. You are presumed innocent anyway.
I mean, the argument, and again, this will digress. This will lead to a digression. But just because you mention it, what it is, it's not just a simple case of following somebody who's done wrong to a particular place for adjudication or whatever. What it is, or what my understanding of the situation is that they are saying that this is witch hunting, which will not be tolerated, and therefore we are taking a particular action. As to the right or wrong of that action, it's not
true.
I think
And you see, that exercise itself, describing it as witch hunting, that is what makes our law a mockery. Because when it comes to the regular Joe, it is not
the regular
witch
Joe.
hunting.
The regular
It
Joe
is
also
a case
has
in court that you are presumed innocent. See, why do we write the law that you are presumed innocent? Let's go through it. Because if there was no prima facie established, the case would not go to court anyway. So you are innocent. You see, don't get me wrong. I'm not presuming
a person's guilt until.
But all I'm saying is that we've written laws and we need to enforce them. But by doing this, and I mentioned the two arms of government because they are the only people that seem to do that. Remember the Anas case. The judges didn't follow their colleagues because they are presumed innocent. You come with your lawyer and defend yourself. You see, so we should cultivate that habit, because I'm saying this because it helps stop corruption. Otherwise, the perception is that when I am I cannot be corrupt because I make the law. You see, there's a thin line.
I agree with you, and I understand the essence of what you're saying. My only point of departure with you is that when it's put in an omnibus like that, then it takes away from the fact that there have been times, especially in the legislature, when they've been very critical of themselves and they've sought to see that justice is done. It may not be what we are expecting, but there are strides in that matter. But don't forget, I work in the parliament, so I would say that. Let me ask you, Madam, do you think that the OSP should be involved in this matter?
Yes, please.
And
knowing how chaotic this incident has been in the public domain, the OSP is the right person to look into this matter and would respect their judgment. So we believe that the OSP's outcomes are going to give us the right answers that we need to avoid the misconceptions that are flying around, and also looking at the integrity of Madam Cecilia as well and our government in general. Yes, please.
Okay, let me Uncle Atu, who is trying to distract you on the phone?
No, I'm just looking at the asset declaration.
At the asset declaration law. I mean, I looked at it over the weekend and I saw that, first of all, and like I said, coincidentally, I was talking about it over there on Friday, and I felt, my view was that there should be more frequent declaration opportunities for people in public space. But you see, with the OSP's issue that I was just talking to Sabina about, the OSP hasn't been very, again, he's my lecturer, was my criminal law lecturer, but it seems he's had a few bottlenecks as he's gone along. So before he even starts, do you think that the OSP route is where we should go?
Well, presently, the case is in court. I mean, and like I expressed before, I have my own views of this issue. I presume Madam Cecilia is innocent. The kids who also took the money are innocent, but as per our law, till the courts prove that they are guilt. You know, the OSP's office in this particular incident, I mean, the case is in court. I believe that the court will establish loads of things, and based on the outcomes, that's when maybe the OSP would have cause. But the people that I feel should step in immediately are the GRA.
Yeah.
Because even if it's a gift,
you know what? Nobody's talking about that.
We need to establish if taxes were paid, because I'm presuming this is her money. Mm-hmm. I don't have any reason to doubt that it isn't her money. And you know, sometimes people through the times we're in, $1 million sounds huge to us because we're broke. But $1 million for certain offices, for certain businesses, it's pittance. Those in the real estate, check the houses that are being sold around town. $400,000 a 2-bedroom apartment. So if a person is in that industry,
you see, let's put this in context.
This kind of money.
Let's put this in context. $1 million stolen without detection is what the context
exactly
is.
But you see, that's my whole point. That personally, I'm waiting to be convinced that the kids stole $1 million. I don't believe they stole $1 million. I think it's exaggerated.
Yeah.
That's my personal view, because I know the quantum of $1 million, and that's what I'm thinking. And true to form, they did things that you would otherwise not do on your regular salary. So you live fantasy. And so just looking at their lifestyle over 4 months should have been picked up.
Yeah.
Because immediately I see a fragrance, $20,000 made by Ketado. It's something that I want to acquire. But my salary is $1,000.
Exactly.
The only time I will do it is when I'm given a gift of $100,000.
Exactly.
Then it becomes a need. You see, so that's what I'm looking at. And $1 million for 18-year-olds, the kind of need it will create for them.
Or even want.
Yes.
Maybe not even needs, because I know what I'll do with that money.
That's what I'm saying. That I really want to get more information from the court, because it's a bit exaggerated for me. And like I said, I mean, to put it in context, certain businesses in the country fetch people that kind of money. For me, as I mentioned, GRA must step up immediately, and that's how most of our leaders get away. Because we talk about the money, we talk about the theft. But what about if taxes were not paid on this money from whatever businesses that she has engaged in? Be it private, be it public, be it gift, be it even inheritance. Our laws prescribe taxes, even from a gift. So that is, when you start from that angle, it opens up a lot more the source of the money. You see, I don't think we allow the different units to actually perform their role.
Exactly.
Because GRA must be interested in this.
What we are not certain of as of this morning is what actions they've taken, and so we are presuming
that they haven't. But
done
we want to hear
yet.
what questions they've asked.
Citizens Coalition, are you going to do anything? Are you issuing a statement? Are you taking any action in this regard?
You see, since this news broke, we were working on setting up chapters across the country. So this has come as like a shock to the system. We are now yet to meet to take a position on it, but straight away we know that the taxman must come in, and the courts must be allowed to perform their role for us to get more information, because as it stands, she is disputing, but as you said, it's in court. So we want the court to hasten the process. The pace should be quickened so that at least it ends for us to get some more facts. And if the OSP finds need, because there are gaps in there from the court case, then he takes. But then, as for GRA, I don't think that
they should waste any time at all.
They should step up now and ensure that if we are owed any taxes, even from the girls, if they also think that they earned the money, they should also pay taxes on it. That's if they are in court, maybe they didn't steal, they think they earned. So our taxes must be taken at each point in time, because this is a crucial time for the country, and any opportunity for the taxman to increase revenue, I think we should take opportunity to
it's such a shame, because this is such a pleasant, beautiful human being, and I'm sorry that I'm even having to speak about it publicly, because she's somebody that I have known for the longest time and I've held in very high esteem. So when she talks about the fact that her reputation will be restored when this is over, I like to believe it. But you, Sabina, are a social advocate,
yes,
and so what's the buzz? And you're much younger than us, so I'm sure there's a different level of conversation that's going on, which we may not necessarily be privy to.
Yes. So on our side, we are much concerned about how the asset declaration law is a private thing, and we do not know the assets that have been acquired or declared, and where they are being kept. So with regards to that, we are wondering whether these monies have a source that has been declared already. So with regards to that, we are looking up to the OSP's investigations and the outcomes that it would generate, so that we get to know, because the public domain and my side as well, we are all concerned about how this money can be kept without trace, and also looking at the risks of thefts and security issues. How confident was she to have kept this money at home and think that it's safe, her family is safe, as well as her money as well?
I mean, Sabina raises a very interesting question about, even her safety, having that kind of money. If it's actually, even if it's $500,000, it's still quite a lot of money at home, and her safety and everything. I will come to you on the issue of the source of wealth, which you have mentioned already, which I think we can still explore. But before I do that, Sabina,
yes,
the other issue of the matter, or the other side of the coin, is the fact that young people are getting greedy. And Auntie Gifty mentioned the fact that what would an 18-year-old be doing, stealing that kind of money, even if it's 100,000, even if it's $10,000, an 18-year-old, you should be stealing 50 cedis, 100 cedis. And so what's driving the youth? What are you looking for?
Okay, so honestly, the youth is just looking for soft life, as it is being termed nowadays. And looking at the buzz on social media, we have social media such as platforms such as TikTok, Instagram. There is so much pressure there that the youth would want to fit into the shoes of those who are living these lavish lifestyles. And I'm guessing, or I'm assuming, that looking at these house helps in question, they just wanted to get the money to live such lavish lifestyles. And
I mean, of course, there's a lot of peer pressure, peer influence. I mean, our time, your peer pressure ended in your school or your neighborhood. You didn't have social media. So we agree that, young people are having a lot to contend with in terms of the world becoming a smaller place, and with the vices and virtues, which we would expect that they would emulate more. But I do get what you're saying. But back to you, Atu. I was reading an IEA report, and it spoke about, it tried to list the various avenues for, ensuring that, as much as possible, we reduce the leakages in the system. But it doesn't seem to be working very well. And of course, civil society plays a very major role in all these type of things. But still,
before I even come to that, you look at the confidence in our banking system itself has been eroded again with this debt restructuring that is happening now. And then when you go back, I mean, you and I would know that the confidence of the banking system was eroded in the 70s and 80s. We've built it again, and now with what is happening today,
exactly,
it's going to go down. So I will not be surprised more people will not keep their monies in the banks. So in terms of the risk, it's going to be higher. But when it comes to the way we allow the leakages, I look at it, we glorify criminality in the political sphere.
Yeah.
Because, I see very bad examples that we set for ourselves. But then we use witch hunting to explain. Are we saying that our courts are that corrupt? So in years past, some political actors were found guilty of certain crimes and were put behind bars. We bring them out as ex-convicts and we glorify them. We make them chairman of board, ambassadors. So what is the message?
So what you're saying is that the message of
that is exactly what we are doing.
Going down
so
as we should.
If we think they are not criminals, let's establish that. But as it stands, when you read the law reports, we found certain politicians guilty of certain crimes as per our statutes. So they were jailed.
And they were convicted.
So what are we saying? And we keep doing it. And that's what...
But I guess, while there is a veracity in what you're saying, there's also the fact of restitution. And the fact that the person has been punished for a particular crime does not mean they have to pay for that crime for the rest of their life. So if you can restitute them, why not?
True. But then, what did we do to show that there was restitution? They went in, the commentary was that these are people, it's bad. So the moment they come out, you see, it's the messaging. As you're saying, restitution could be done. So then the messaging is different. These are reformed people. But then the same structure keeps repeating itself. So what is the deterrent for anybody in the political space to do same?
I mean, while I'm not holding brief for people who may be political actors, who may be in the bracket that you're talking about, I also think that it will be simplifying the matter if we said that politicians are corrupt or politicians are criminal, just like that, because there may be some people like that. But the reality of the matter is that within the law and the provisions of the law, there are things that need to change, obviously. And one of them, as I made reference to, is, for instance, 2861, which I think needs to be looked at, but I'm just one individual. I feel like when we put those structures in place, then we'll have a more biting tool to use, rather than just, speaking with our mouth and spending time, dissecting why a person kept so much in their house or not.
You see, for instance, as you mentioned, as CSOs, I mean, this issue with the asset declaration law, going to the Supreme Court is expensive. That's why we haven't gone yet. But we've done lots of cases in that regard.
You don't have access to pro bono?
It's very difficult.
Maybe that's something else that you need to, GTV may need to find something to come and talk about.
We may need to start looking at that option, but it's very difficult. And even if you find somebody that wants to do pro bono, because of the kind of system we run, where the citizenry are dependent on regimes, people are very, very, they kind of come in with a lot of circumspection. They're not too sure if they really want to touch some of these cases. Because, for instance, like I mentioned to you, I mean, what we're passionate about, political ex-cons, without us seeing any kind of restitution in place.
But how do you quantify that? I mean,
you see, we are not saying they're criminals, but by our laws, we found certain people guilty. So that is a different.
But so in effect, what you are saying is that if somebody has committed a crime and been convicted, whether by a fine, whether by a jail term, that person cannot do anything in society.
The person can do a lot back in society. But the message we should be sending is that we have reformed them. The crime was committed. He gave them money back.
They served their time.
They served their time.
Or whatever punitive measures
or they got pardoned. You see, so we are being selective. And you see, I'm not referring to the likes of us, because we don't even have that control. The people that have the control to do that give the impression that when it's them, they will get off. You see, so
maybe.
Remember years ago, the Obed case, for instance. Mm-hmm. You see, and a similar thing has happened. What happened then, if was punitive enough,
you see,
would give you a certain hope
that it wouldn't happen again. Well, there are so many facets to this conversation. Who determines what is punitive enough when it's gone before a competent court of law and it's been determined by a justice of whatever court that this is what it is, or it's difficult, a judge of a court, so it's difficult to actually put values on these. I think what we should be, maybe what I think may work, coming from that interview with the National Development Pentecost guys, is maybe if we took a certain moral stance and decided that this is our country, we need to move it from point A to point B. And so to do that, we need to do this and that. And if people didn't do that, they didn't to.
The difficulty is getting the
and our time is almost up here. But we are rounding up. Don't worry.
The critical mass of people to enforce that. I mean, we would be happy as CSOs if all the electorate joined us in the effort to get certain amendments of our constitution. I'm not an advocate of a wholesome amendment, but there are certain clauses like this asset declaration where it's a mockery of an enforcement of anti-corruption law, because it's never seen until a case happens. And if we are really serious, these things by now should not be there. They are there because we all know how we transitioned from a military dictatorship into this democracy. So all those nuances that exist, we're expecting everybody to join us, including the politicians themselves, because they have on their books trying to pass a law for dual citizenship, dual citizens to run for parliament. The same people are now pussyfooting on that, and then they find themselves in court. Meanwhile, it's right before them. Why don't you seek to pass it?
It's one of the, you see,
these are some of the amendments.
You see, when you do that, you're sort of like triggering me, and then the producer's telling me to, finish up. But you see, the thing, and again, it's strange because I promise you, I was having this conversation with somebody on Friday, and one of the things we say, there's a disconnect between what is actually happening and what is made public knowledge, even with the civil society organizations. And so something like that will be said, rightly or wrongly, from somebody from a civil society organization. But there are avenues for amendments, there are avenues for contributing to legislature, which citizens are not exploring enough.
True.
And so, please, citizens, you can't actually contribute to legislation, you can't contribute to policy. You can do all these things through various amendments. And now, even with the private members bill, you can actually find an MP to parent any bill that you are interested in. And so I thank you. Sabrina, do you have a final word?
Okay, so my final word will be to the youth that we should slow down on the pace at which we want to arrive at success, and also to avoid this kind of issues coming up. It does not create a good name for us, and it's also going to prevent other people from getting opportunities if it's in the mind of those ahead of us that we might come into their homes to steal their fortunes and all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Before we go, I'll give you the final word.
Well, I mean, as I said, enforcement of our laws is the bane of our society these days. So I'm just hoping that the electorate will understand that we are the major stakeholders and not the political parties. And when that happens, then all these private bills that you're talking about, we can do it. As it stands now, most of the citizenry feel we are beholden to the guys.
But that should not be the case.
And it shouldn't be. And that's what CSOs were trying to educate the citizenry to get that. It's a humongous task. And we hope that everybody, journalists, electors, those who can help in that drive, because that should be the goal. The moment the citizen realizes that they are the sovereign, democracy has succeeded.
Power resides in the people.
Exactly.
We don't read, do we? Okay, so thank you very much for spending time with us. But seriously, the power of our sovereignty is with each and every one of us, and we can determine which direction we are going. If we don't like yellow, we can always take purple. We don't have to stick to one. And sometimes it's not even a matter of yellow or purple or green or violet. It's a matter of a blend of our culture with our, the moral and the policy bit of it. So yeah, hopefully we'll be doing the right things and setting better examples for the younger generation. And Kafu is looking right into my eyes. So yeah, thank you very much for being with us. And thank you for watching.